Welcome everyone. I'm Irene Vargiolu, President of ELSA Cagliari. ELSA, the European Student Association, is the largest independent network of young lawyers and jurists in Italy and Europe, and for 32 years has been committed to formation and in creating a bridge between the university and the professional world, through the dissemination of legal culture and of respect for human rights. ELSA Cagliari has been operating in the University of Cagliari since 1996 and enjoys a network of users and collaborations at international level. From now on, ELSA Cagliari and Matex TV collaborate to offer a new service of formation and information in a more accessible, different and actual format. ELSA Cagliari is therefore proud to present you LEXpress, a coffee with a lawyer, which wants to be a moment of fresh information accompanying your coffee break, wherever you are, at any time, because law is everywhere. And from now, it is also here, in this program and in our podcast. Let me also introduce our speaker, Enrica Priolo, barrister and founder of Legal Hackers Pisa. Enrica will lead us through many topics which happen to be insidious due to their close relationship with our human rights.
The world began without man and will end without him. Man works on the disintegration of a general order and plunges a powerfully organized matter towards an even greater inertia that will one day be final. Since he began to breathe and feed himself until the invention of atomic and thermonuclear machines, passing through the discovery of fire and except when he reproduces himself, man has cheerfully dissociated billions of structures to reduce them to a state in which they are no longer susceptible to integration. Levi Strauss, 1999.
I often read about catastrophic visions of what artificial intelligence represents. Vision in which man will be subdued and banned by his own creatures. But is that really the case? Is it really the dangerous to rely on machines? I propose a visual angle in which the perception of the machine is lived with more serenity, with more confidence. Some argue that there is a danger in the attribution of responsibility from men to thinking machines. And it is true. We should to some extent subrogate us, but are probably not able to do so. So they increasingly constitute an outwardization of human capabilities that cause machines to strengthen quantitatively, but remain with very obvious quality limits. And from here comes the danger inherent in the same culture that goes towards what a scholar calls symbionte. Symbionte is a new figure in which there is a synthesis between life and machine to the point that not only is the machine the extrinsic of the human body, but it is also its integration, in the sense that more and more we internalize parts of machine and that it's difficult to distinguish a human being in biological traits and technological traits. Technology takes over the heart of biology exponentially, and in this function, some see great dangers, others see great hopes, and others are uncertain between one thing and the other. So the frame in which I want to take you refers to a very ancient history that I study and that goes from the cracks of the ancient automs of Losano, passing through the classic world of self-propelled machines. Let's remember il colossus of Rhodes, and the Christian Middle Ages and the Muslim and Arabic Middle Ages, which had a great influence in the West, and even for Japanese automatic machines. The very long history of mechanical automatism, which had the grandest chapter in Leonardo da Vinci, takes place in the early 20th century, when the electric automaton arrives and takes us to the cybernetic robot and to the present day. What does automaton mean? It means what moves itself, although some translate it what thinks for itself. But in the case, the same thought is the principle of movement, so let's keep for good the definition of what moves itself in the world. According to a school of thought, there are only two real atoms, the God and the animal, because only these can be called automatons as self-moving life, and in this field man does not appear. He is not considered what moves himself, and we will see why. In current use, the word automaton is used for getting its very origin and applies to devices of various kinds that simulate self-movement. When we instinctively think of automaton, we think of the one on famous movies, for example, which has something monstrously disturbing because it simulates humans, simulates human action, and here all the misunderstandings and fears that our contemporary knowledge assigns to automatic life, to the so-called cybernetic life, are born. In particular, the strongest fear lies in the fact that by meaning the automaton as a repetition of man, a repetition of his subjective autonomous life, there is a risk that it will equal his own creator. For example, one of the most frequently asked questions is, how are we going to do if automatons become free to think their way and then maybe become hostile enemies? The questions, perhaps, must be set avoiding the error that is always made in general in type of this approach. It said the good man thinks, that acts, just like the model man is free, man is not free, depending on the various moral options. This approach puts man at the center, because man is the one who builds the automaton. Here the god and the animal become shady. Why? Because the former does not make a presence of himself, and the other does not say nothing of himself, not having the word. In essence, if man is capable, he can build an automaton that is in everything like himself and that can be put in the place of the divine creator. I'm actually of the opinion that the first automaton is man, not God, not animal, not machine, but man. Because it's the man who shows he is moving himself, but he doesn't move himself. It is meant to say that hominidization constitutes the machine body which will then give life to the automaton. When is a tool a tool? Above all, how does a tool happen? If by instrument we mean what anthropologists call an exosomatic object, like just something that is outside the body, out of me, we mean that the instrument goes beyond the living body in action. The most famous example is about the monkey and the stick. How did it happen that man was able to find an extension of his animal life, of his instinctive life, without knowing why? He simply acts as a life. He lives, he just lives. What happened was that man used prosthesis. Just as it's understood in its Greek origin, the word prosthesis, pro-tizemi, to place something next to something else, to put something out, to expose yourself out. We know this because we analyze what happens in the body in action of the living, not only of man, therefore, but also of the animal body. And we discover a threshold that lies halfway between what we could call the living body and what we could call body thing, like Husserl said. For it to work, however, it's necessary that there be, in addition to this externalization of the body, also the purpose of a function on exercise this externalization in its vital actions. Because the monkey does not have the stick back as an instrument, the gesture is not enough. We need something that only happens to the human beings, so that we can create the situation of living people who equip themselves with tools. Our civilization is made up of living people full of tools, or even symbionti, that have the tools inside them, like the peacemaker. Something must happen that, starting from the body, projects itself out of the body and becomes an exosomatic phenomenon, a kind of a mirror, on which and from which the return causes the subject which previously acted unconsciously now see itself. What happens is that not only you know how to do it, but you also know what are you doing. What I'm saying starts from a single hypothesis, that is the vocal gesture, as an expressive communicative attitude, as an action in the community. So here we have the first tool, words. Of course, words are also built over time, but we have mental vocabulary. Let's think about child education. We have the tools through which two things happen, without which the human being does not emerge. I am talking first of all about the possibility of referring to the other and therefore to himself. This mirror of me going back like me, that we call the relationship with the other. The second thing is an analytical power towards the word of extraordinary effectiveness. Having a mental vocabulary means having the unit of measurement with which to describe the word, and these are algorithms. The word is first of all algorithms. That is, a unit of measure very primitive, obviously insufficient for today's science that prefers mathematics, but you don't get to mathematics without the first algorithm. And this first algorithm is the description that allows the human being not only to act what he acts and to do what he does, but to build a map of what he does. It's just like a mental storage. If we look at exactly what we are describing, we must agree without fear that we are the product of language and not the producers of language. The endless journey of the first great instruments shows us that the human being is the product of all this, which, as the word automaton shows, that it thinks for itself but does not think for itself. In other words, the implementation of the possibilities that are intrinsic to the endless quantity of mystical tools that man has endowed. Let us imagine what happens if we move from this first instrument to the next, such as the first great scriptures, the decoration of the body, the mask, the tomb, hieroglyphics, Greek writing, mathematics, modern algorithms. We understand even better why man is an automaton, because his action is organized, oriented to what we call culture, knowledge. The real automaton is culture, of which man is the product. Automaton culture from life translates life into a wise, vital activity. But the world is dead, like Hegel said. It lacks individuality. As soon as I name something, I have already lost it. I can't say life. I can translate it into a word that is knowledge, and that it's a machine. Then many concerns fail. If culture is the construction of an exosomatic machine, if it's the transcription of life into an analysis that is the body thing, the body that outsources itself to become body to other, the alphabet, the writing, all the machines we have invented, if this is our knowledge, if this is the automatism of our knowledge, there is nothing strange about thinking that we build, and already we are building machines absolutely capable of thinking. If thinking means calculating, if thinking means reasoning, that is deducing, inferring. But we are ready to them. There is no scandal, because we have done nothing but this. We built machines that helped us in everyday life, that helped us think also. We gave the child the language. This is exactly as in the cybernetic machine. I mean, it's different in the type of writing, but it's the same thing. What the machine will never do, however, is live, because it cannot do two things. It cannot remember and cannot go wrong. The machine can certainly collect traces and calculate them, but it cannot do this fundamental thing, which is typical of the living, the eternal living God, and the animal and man, of course, which is forgetting in order to remember. That is, only the one who forgets can remember. Only those who have lost in the living moment can bring it back to the heart. I choose to tell you what has to direct the machine in its training: simply knowledge.